welcome to Friday's morning sales step up. So a big welcome if you're joining me today. It is Friday and we do things a little bit differently on a Friday, don't we? So the last couple of weeks, we've had a couple of great interviews, and actually I'm going to be following some of those great interviews with some other sessions in the new year, because there's some other amazing people who I really want to talk to. So we are going to start doing that on a regular basis in 2021. But today you'll notice that I'm all on my little own sum. So if you're joining me, let me know that I'm not alone, because today what I really want to talk a little bit about was about what 2020's taught me. I think that there's so many things that have changed this year, and I think there's been so many opportunities to learn, and especially in sales. So actually, I'm not giving myself a time limit today. We're just going to have a bit of a chat, and let me know if this resonates with you. And also let me know what you've learned from 2020, because let's be honest, it's been a funny old year. Stanley, a big hello. Lovely to see you there. Someone else joining me there as well. I can't quite see a name popping up on that, but I'm sure it will. It might be Tom. I know, Tom, sometimes you pop up on my stream as a LinkedIn user. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that I've learned with all the businesses I've worked with in all the different areas across this year. And that's because I feel that's given me some real insight that you might be able to benefit from, purely because I've seen it in lots of different places. So what's that been all about? Well, I think the first thing, and this is going to sound really obvious, the first thing that I've really learned is being about online selling. Yeah, here we go. Standing straight in. Yeah, I agree. Great opportunity to learn. This year, I'm asking others to think about what old habits we can drop. What new habits can we adopt? Actually, you know what? Let's jump past my first one and move straight on the second thing I was going to talk about, which ties straight in with that, Stanley. One of the big things that I've learned this year has been that mindset is absolutely key. And for a lot of the salespeople that I've worked with, those old habits have sometimes been a bit of a challenge. It's really hard to change, and actually to change your mindset around this. And I think the biggest change that I've seen is that people who have brought a mindset of success to their roles actually have been getting much better results than maybe people who've been fighting against it a little bit. And a lot of that is about habits, because of course the habits are the programs that our minds run, whether we like them or not. And challenging those habits can feel really uncomfortable. And I've seen real success from people who've challenged those habits and who've challenged that uncomfortable feeling and try to push themselves outside of that. Excuse me. So I think mindset has been hugely important in this, and actually pushing back on those habits. And I think that's a brilliant example there, Sandy. What new habits can we adopt? And actually, a lot of the other things that I'm going to talk about are new ways of working that have come up this year, and that because of that are actually have really helped us is in our businesses and as our role as salespeople to be more effective. Morning, Nick. Yeah, we've got a few people coming on. That's lovely. If you are here and if you're just joining me, it's lovely to see you. And if you would like to say hello in the comments, I would love to say hello back. So do say hello. All right. So the next thing that I think goes without saying, one of the big changes of this year has been around online selling. And I think there's been a huge learning curve around that. Moving to an online environment, I think, has had lots of different challenges with it, but it's also presented a lot of opportunities. I think what was interesting was when we initially started to make that shift at the beginning of the first lockdown, there was a lot of tolerance. All of a sudden, people who would never have an online meeting are all of a sudden prepared to meet us online. So there was a real shift straight away to people having to embrace that new technology. And it's become increasingly important. Now, what I've seen with the businesses that I've been working with is that the faster businesses have been able to skill up in this area, the more effective they've become. And actually what I'm seeing now is that whereas at the beginning of the year, or near the beginning of the year, there was a real acceptance that, people were flexing with it. They were doing the best that they can. all this kind of thing. Actually, things are a little bit different now. People are expecting a bit more of a professional approach. So, I'm sitting here now with lights, a microphone and a camera. Whereas, in the beginning of this, I was sat with my laptop. So, lovely to see everybody. Bev's joined us, Pascal. Oh, wow. Thanks so much for saying that about the series. I really appreciate it. As well, what you might have noticed, thanks very much for that, Pascal. Lovely opportunity for me to give it a bit of a plug. And if you have enjoyed the series, I'm actually turning all of the tips and tricks into an ebook, which you'll be getting as an early Christmas present if you click the link below. So above, below, wherever it is, click the link and you'll get on the wait list for that. So thanks for that, Pascal. That was a nice opportunity for me to introduce that. Yeah, so I think that people's expectations around online selling have really changed now. And I think that's going to be the same for 2021. So that's been a bit of a learning curve for all of us, I think. And I think all of us really need to keep running with that, because however much we like it or not, I think it's always going to have a place in our sales roles now. Morning, Lawrence. I think what the good thing about that, though, is there's some real benefits and advantages around that. One of the key benefits that I have seen is that all of a sudden, instead of being able to maybe do 1 or 2 face-to-face meetings a day, I've seen salespeople doing maybe 4 or 5, because all of a sudden there's no travel. I think the key thing that I've learned from it, though, is that there's only so much you can do in a day. So just because you're sitting at your desk, you still need to give yourself some time around that and some space around that to do the follow-up and do the work. So that's one of the other key things that I've learned. And I've learned is that people are expecting a higher standard. So if you're not thinking about how you come across on video or how you come across on your Zoom or Teams calls, I think that's definitely something to take into 2021. And of course, it's Black Friday. So now might be the time to go and invest in a mic or a light if you haven't got one. So the third thing that I learned, let's have a look. Yeah, fantastic, on it. Bev, I know, has just gone and bought lights. She has, yeah. I mean, make you look more beautiful, Bev. You see, look how beautiful I look. It's interesting, actually. Should we see the difference? It's quite a difference, isn't it? It does make a difference. So it just raises your game a little bit. There we go. Pascal will be, I'm sure, giving me video critique notes later on, as this is his specialist subject. And in fact, I'm hoping he might come and share some of that with us next year. So there we go. There's a sneaky insight. Okay, so the third thing that I've really learned has been around your proposition. And again, this has been one of those things that's been moving so quickly. It's actually been really hard to keep up with. Some of the businesses that I've worked with have had to flex their proposition 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, dependent on what's going on in the environment around them, depending on what's going on with COVID, with lockdown, so on and so forth. Flexing your proposition has never been more important. And one of the things that I've been doing with one of the businesses that I've been working with is on a Monday, we've actually been repitching every week. So every week on a Monday, we've actually been repositioning and practicing to see if how we're presenting the product perfectly lands for how the landscape is today. And I think the more that we can do that, the more success that we're going to have. So that's definitely been something that I think moving forward is going to be of real value. The ability to flex and actually shift very quickly has been a massive benefit to so many of the salespeople that I've worked with. Hi, Chris. Great to see you coming on board. All right, so the fourth one is an interesting one as well. And actually, this is something that I sometimes struggle with. I don't know if you do as well. So I would love to know, is it just me, or do you sometimes struggle with this as well? The fourth thing is around asking for help. And I'm not always really very good at this. Okay. So I'm not always very good, because I always think, oh, people, they're really busy. They don't want to talk to me. They don't want to, ask these questions, so on and so forth. And that sometimes has held me back from asking for feedback or guidance or insight from maybe my existing clients or even my previous clients. And it's been a real learning curve and a valuable lesson to me to actually start to ask those questions and actually find out more about how my prospects and my previous customers perceive me. And that's been a really big thing for me to really start to embrace. I don't know about anybody else. Does anyone else sometimes find it a bit difficult asking for help? Yes, Stanley, I'm so pleased it's not just me. I think we do that though sometimes, don't we? We think, oh no, I can't ask for help. So, across this year, and especially over the last 6 months, I've actually asked for help from some of my customers and my previous customers around feedback, around my business and around my brand, and around some of the direction that I want to take the business in the future in 2021, and what they think about that. And how could they help me with that? And what insight could they give me? Oh my goodness, it's been so helpful. And I really wish that I'd done it years ago. So if you're not already doing that, either as a business or as an individual, asking for help and asking for feedback is actually really valuable. So, if you have just sold to someone, great idea. Ask for some feedback on how they found that process. You'll really be, it's really interesting hearing things from the other side of the coin as to how they found the experience of going through that process with you. And how you can then actually develop on the back of that. And equally, I think as a business, it's really important for us to ask for feedback as well, especially when at the moment of this last year, we've had to move a lot. And sometimes our customers can give us real insight into what's really worked for them and what they struggled with a bit. So that's my fourth thing. Asking for help is really important, and actually getting that feedback and then acting on it. Yeah, Bev, absolutely. Feedback is where we grow. And it's sometimes a scary thing, I think, especially if you're asking for personal feedback, and asking for help around becoming a better salesperson or becoming a better business as well, because sometimes that can feel very personal. So yeah, okay, it is though. It's the space where we grow. So that's a great point. All right, number 5, innovation rules. And I mean this. What have you innovated with this year? I know we've talked about online selling, but let's be honest, everyone did that. Like everybody did that. So it's not really innovative. It was just getting with the game as to how we deliver or how we interact. Innovation is something different. Innovation is how you have rethought your delivery style or your approach, so on and so forth. There have been some amazing successes that I've seen. Hi, Chris. Hi, Chris. Lovely to see so many people joining me today. Friday morning with a cup of coffee. It's obviously the warm time to talk to people. And if you are joining me and you haven't said hello, do come and say hello in the comments. I'd love to say hello to you. So that's really cool. All right. So what are you doing differently? What have you innovated about? Because I've seen some huge successes out there. And actually, I've changed some stuff in my business as well and seen the impact that has had. So let me give you some examples of innovation that I've seen and seen work really well. One example is that I've seen businesses move to online booking systems. Now, what I mean by that is it means that clients or prospects can actually book directly into a salesperson or a customer services person or a tech support person's diary, actually without having to speak to somebody to make that appointment. It's more convenient for them, and it saves all the backwards and forwards with calendar juggling. This is actually really easy to do. And you know what? It's really low cost as well. I'll give you some examples of tools in the ebook. So if you haven't already, make sure you've signed up if you want some ideas around that. In addition, another example is proposals. Increasingly, people are moving their sales proposals online, and there's some real key benefit around that. You can put in more interactive, interesting content. You can actually see when your prospect is engaged with that prospect, and you can even put a sign now button on and get an e-signature back, and all done in one move. So that's been a great way of actually speeding the sales process in some ways. And I think another great example is starting to change the way that we interact. One of the things that I've had great success with has been something that I learned from an amazing guy called Chris Askew. I will tag him. He is phenomenal. And he got in touch and started a conversation with me by sending me a video message on LinkedIn. What? A video message on LinkedIn? Yeah. I'm serious. They are so amazing. So definitely, if you haven't checked out video messaging on LinkedIn, you totally should. If getting in touch with people or connecting on LinkedIn is part of your strategy, because it is a really cool way of being a bit innovative, a bit different. There's not many people doing it at the moment. So it does really stand out and get you an amazing response. So think about, how can you innovate? And if you haven't innovated this year, are you falling behind? Because actually people are moving really quickly with technology at the moment. So you want to make sure you're ahead of the game. So a challenge for today maybe is, if you haven't already, think about one thing that you could innovate or do differently to give you a different result. And I'd love to hear how that goes for you. Is anyone introduced anything innovative into their sales process or into their business this year? I'd love to hear about it. So drop it in the comments if you have, because we all want to steal that amazing innovative idea. Yes, we do. Okay, so we've been through 5 already. I said there's 10. I'm doing great here, Love that idea of video message. Bev, I'll tell you what, especially for you in your industry and what you do, that would be so compelling for people. So if you haven't had a go, and this goes for anybody on the stream, if you've never had a go with a video message and you want to have like a little practice, then feel free, send me a video message on LinkedIn and you can just see how that works. So it is super cool. It is really super cool. Okay. Right. What are we going to move on to? We are going to move on to number 6. All right. So number 6 is all about support. And this sort of ties back, I think, to supporting your team in the new world and in the new environment. Where I've seen the most success from sales teams is when they have continued to have investment in their personal training and growth. And of course, I would say, as I'm a sales trainer, but I've continued to deliver sales training across this year. But we've had to move and we've shifted and we've changed what we're doing there to ensure we're still delivering an amazing result. The results from those sales teams who've continued to invest and continue to engage in training has really, really been amazing. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. I think one is because it's delivering new skills. And there have been some new skills and new approaches that we've needed in the current market. I think the second thing is, though, is about people feeling valued. And especially when people are made remote working or they're not in their normal environment, it's really easy for people to feel that they're forgotten about or they're not valued and that they're not important anymore. So continuing to invest in your people development is actually a great way of saying, you're still a really important part of this business. We really value you. And I'm saying this on the context of sales, but of course, I think this is true for anybody in any area. So yeah, valuing your people and actually investing in their success, and by continuing to develop their skills, I've seen that as a core part of many of the businesses' success that I've worked with across the year. So that might be something to think about. And it ties in nicely to my next point, which is around sales incentives. Now, I've got some salespeople here today. I know many of you. So I want to know, have you had any sales incentives this year? Those fun incentives, where you win some beer or a Friday pizza or an early finish or some money, or, have you had those this year? Because what I've seen is in a lot of businesses, as soon as we went into lockdown, they kind of dropped all that stuff. And it's such a shame, because actually that brings such energy. It really does. Those little one-off incentives, those little one-off things to boost your day and get you excited about picking up the phone or about selling the next shiny thing. They've been really important, valuable things. And of course, when we've gone into lockdown, that kind of a boost has become even more important. But so many businesses dropped them. And I think it was because it was a little bit of a challenge. Yes, beer, breakfast at Ramsay's. Hang on. Okay, I never used to get stuff like that. Yeah, it was, to be fair, a lot of it was alcohol, chocolate, pizza. I don't know. Maybe that was just what I wanted. So it's that whole thing of, where are your incentives? Again, the businesses that have kept up with the incentives, even in difficult times, I've seen a big difference in the teams there and their general mindset. So tying back to what we were talking about earlier on, their mindset, how excited they are to actually be at work, to pick up the phone, to make the next sale. If you're thinking about incentives, the session that I am doing at 9 o'clock on Monday morning is all about Christmas sales incentives, some ideas around that. So if you'd like to do something like that with your team, then join me on Monday and I'll give you some ideas about what you might like to do there based on stuff that I've done on the past. So I know it works, which is always a good one. Okay, so number 8. This is about reflecting on the points of your sales process. Now, for most of the businesses that I work with, there are 3 key points of sale, or 3 key points where things can go really well or they can go really badly. The first is at the point of sale. So that is the first point where we need to be really on our best behavior and doing an amazing job. The second part of the customer journey where we really have an input there is around onboarding. That's really getting the customer up and running, utilizing our product or service. And that's super important for 2 reasons. One is this is quite often a brilliant opportunity to upsell or cross-sell. I know, we're dancing on Friday. It's a great opportunity to upsell or cross-sell. But equally, the other thing is that it's also the point at which a business decides, yes, I've made the right decision, and yes, I'm going to continue to use this product. If they don't have a great onboarding service, then straight away they're going to start to have questions around that. And the third point is the point of renewal. So at the end of a contract, how are you going to get them onto a new contract? For many of the businesses that I've worked with, it's been a challenge to actually change the way that they deliver at each of those 3 points because of the change in circumstances. And that might be because the way that people use the product has changed. It may be because the way they're implementing it has changed. If you can't go on site and actually your onboarding is something very physical that you need to do on site, how do you quickly get somebody up to speed and using that product if you can't go on site? There's some real challenges there. So the most successful businesses that I've seen have really proactively looked at those 3 points, in the interactions, and actually tackled them to see, okay, well, we can't do that, but we can do this. We can't do that, but we can do this. So I think it's all about thinking those 3 points. If you haven't already, it's definitely an opportunity to review them, ready for 2021, and thinking about if you need to review the way that you're actually delivering some of that. So that's another key learning from 2020. All right, number 9. You see, we're coming through now. Number 9 is all about focus. Has it got noisy out there? Wow, it has got noisy. Everyone's sat like this at the computers, aren't they? So all of a sudden there's more emails, there's more social, there's more this, there's more that, there's just more noise. It's just like everywhere. We know it. We know it is. We're all seeing it. Our inboxes are full. Our feed's full of stuff. How do we keep focused? Absolute laser focus. Because as a salesperson right now, one of the key skills that you need is the ability to laser focus in on exactly what is important to you and cut out as much of the noise as you can. This is something that I've found really challenging. It is really challenging. My inbox got to a point where it was like really overflowing. I was like struggling to keep on top of my clients' emails, my team's emails that have come in from people that I've met like 5 years ago, who I've never heard from since, newsletters I've signed up to because I thought, oh, that'll be really helpful. But then I never have the chance to read. And then I go onto social and there's 5,000 things on social. I think, oh, I've got to interact with all those things. I've got to. And it was a real moment for me when I actually sat back at one point and thought, this is crazy. This is like, I'm getting completely overwhelmed here. Did anyone else get that? And has anyone else felt that overwhelmed with all the noise that's going on at the moment? Because I think that that's a real common theme at the moment. And I think that being able to laser focus in, cut through that, and actually be pretty brutal in some ways about where you engage and how you engage is been key to success this year. And if I answered every email that came at my inbox this year, I still wouldn't be finished. So, I have been quite brutal with some unsubscriptions and so on and so forth. And I've even got a tool which I now use to actually manage my inbox, which just reduces my overwhelm there. So yeah, Bev, not just me. I'm so pleased. And then I feel terrible because I unsubscribe from stuff that I actually am interested in, but I just think I just need it out of the way for the moment. So yeah, but email folders can be your friend. So yeah, that laser focus, I think, has been increasingly important. And it's been a real lesson for me in focusing on the things that really, really matter to my clients and to the role that I'm playing with them. So yeah, that's definitely been a learning curve. And I'm pleased it's not just me. Yeah, and Bev, having to prioritize workload is super important. I would completely agree with that as well. And I think managing your time, I think one of the challenges that I've found as well is that because we're all in an online world now, it means that you are constantly available. So what I've found is that I'm doing more client work primarily because I'm doing it in lots of little chunks, whereas generally I would have gone on site and done like a day or a half a day. So actually the fact that it's all those little chunks, it actually adds up to an awful lot more. But because you're sat at a desk, it's kind of crept. So that laser focusing, actually, look, this is what I should be delivering. This is the time it needs to take. Is a real skill. And I think it's going to be of increasing importance as we do more and more online. So what is the 10th thing that I have learned? Well, this might not come as any surprise to you based on some of what I've talked about already, but actually talking to people. And I don't mean just on Zoom calls or on Teams or whatever it is. I mean, actual conversations, personal conversations. What I've found is that everybody can get a little bit tired with all the online stuff. But equally, all the online stuff is, it's sometimes recorded. There's quite often groups of people there. So what that means is you get the business conversations about what you're talking about, but you don't get the coffee conversations. The conversation says, what do you do at the weekend? We all stayed in. What did you do at the weekend? What have you got planned? What's coming up? How are you finding X, Y, Z? We're not getting that. And I think that people are really crying out for that. And one of the things that I started doing in the middle of the year was literally just picking up the phone and ringing people for a chat. That's been one of the most valuable things for me personally as a salesperson, and actually for my business for a number of reasons. The first thing is I've had some really great conversations that have been helpful to me as well as, I would hope, to the person that I'm talking to there. In addition, what's also happened is it's kind of reminded people that I'm around. So even though it's not been the intention, actually there has been some business come out on the back of it. And I think that the other thing is that it's showing some of my existing customers and even my previous customers that actually I do care about them. And I do want to make sure that they're successful through this period. And there's even been some sessions, some of you might remember, that I did in lockdown 1, where I actually offered people some sessions at no charge, just because I felt, some people would benefit from, a little bit of time just thinking about flexing their proposition, like we talked about earlier, and actually getting in gear for this period. And I felt that I've really managed to support people there. And that's actually been real validation for me as well, because when those people come back and say, thanks so much for that, that's really nice for me to receive when things are a little bit difficult. So they are the 10 key things that I think I've learned from 2020. I'm sure there's more. I'm sure there's loads more. Stuff I didn't learn in 2020 was how to make bread. Didn't do that. Still haven't got around to watching Game of Thrones, any of it. Still got lots of box sets on Netflix, so that didn't happen either. And I'm delighted to tell you that I do still get to the point where I sit down on an evening and have something to say to my husband. Normally it's past the wine, but that's still a start. So I think that it's been a really interesting year. These are some things that I've learned from it, and actually I'm really excited about next year. So if you've enjoyed this Lockdown Live series, because we have only got 3 sessions left. I was thinking this morning, there's only 3 at the beginning of next week, and that's it. So if you have enjoyed this series, or if you've missed some of this series, then all of my hints, tips, and tricks that I've shared all the way across this period are going into an ebook, which actually is pretty nice because it means that you can just reference back to it whenever you want. And you can do a bit of skim reading as well, which I think is always nice. Pull out the good bits. So if you want that, just click on the link to get on the wait list. John, here we go. Let me just pop you in. John, some interesting insights there. Thanks, Victoria. Thank you, John. Thanks for coming and joining me. Although selling's an essential aspect of remaining in business, I don't see myself as a salesperson. You know what, John? I think that's really, really common. It doesn't come naturally, and I resist good practice tips and lack the laser focus you spoke of. You know what? I think, especially at the moment, it's been a bit easy to hide, hasn't it? Interestingly, though, I feel that salespeople are just problem solvers. So if you're selling, you're just solving someone's problem. So that might be something to think about, because as soon as I started on my journey thinking about myself as a problem solver, I felt very differently about how I approached that. So that's a little mindset shift, going back to what Stanley was saying at the beginning of the session, bit of a mindset shift. So yeah, so we have only got 3 more sessions together. I've got some quite interesting stuff for next week as well. On Monday, we're going to do all about Christmas incentives, which I think is a great way to make sure that we end this year on a high. And then I'm going to be giving some insight on, I think Tuesday, it might be Wednesday. Don't hold me to it. I can't remember. I haven't got it in front of me. We're going to be doing some insights around strategies and approaches to running an amazing sales kickoff day. So if you are involved in sales in any way, shape or form, that's definitely something to make sure you're around for, because I'm going to be giving you some tips and tricks and some stuff that I think you could really include there quickly and easily. There's going to have a tangible difference on the outcomes that your teams start to deliver into 2021. Thanks so much for joining me, and thanks so much for joining in. I've really enjoyed doing these live sessions. I've learned an awful lot from them, and I would love to ask for your help. If you do have any feedback, we talked about how important I've found that before, and you'd like to share that with me, then I would love to hear it on a DM or on an email. Thanks for joining me today. I will be back at 9 o'clock on Monday morning with 10 short, sharp minutes on Christmas sales incentives. So until then, have a fantastic day. Keep selling and enjoy the weekend. Keep selling.